A guy named Marcus Webb in Tempe, Arizona, posted on r/dogs in late 2021, and I saved it because it was one of the more honest things I'd read on that forum. He'd had a German Shepherd for 6 years, trained, socialized, the whole thing, and decided to add a Doberman, not as a second guard dog, just because he liked the breed. What he wrote 3 months in was this: "Living with both of them taught me that they solve the same problem in completely opposite ways. The Shepherd thinks about it. The Doberman was already there." That line sat with me, because the entire Doberman versus German Shepherd debate online is just people arguing about bite force and weight like it's a boxing match, when the actual difference between these two dogs isn't physical at all. It's psychological, and the psychological difference is the thing that matters when someone's actually in your house at 2 in the morning. I want to get into that. But first, some context on what each of these breeds actually is, because most people are working from a movie poster version of both. The German Shepherd's original job had nothing to do with protecting anyone. Captain Max von Stephanitz founded the Verein für Deutsche Schäferhunde, the Society for German Shepherd Dogs, in 1899, with one design requirement: create the ideal working dog for managing livestock across difficult terrain with minimal direction. The key word there is minimal direction. A herding dog that needed constant instruction from the handler was a useless herding dog. The shepherd had to read the flock, read the terrain, read the situation, and make the right call independently. That capacity, accurate, fast, independent decision-making under pressure, is what made the breed indispensable to the German military so quickly. By 1914, there were 48,000 German shepherds in military service. They carried messages through shellfire, located wounded soldiers, and navigated environments that would have broken most working animals. What they were doing in those environments wasn't aggression. It was problem-solving under stress at a very high level. The Doberman's origin is a different story entirely. Louis Doberman was a tax collector in Apolda, Thuringia, in the 1880s. He collected money from people who didn't want to pay, in places that weren't always safe, and he wanted a dog that made potential problems reconsider before they became actual problems. He crossed Rottweiler, German Pinscher, Weimaraner, and probably Greyhound into something that looked like a threat before it did anything at all. He kept no records of the breeding, a fact that frustrates serious breed historians to this day. But what he produced is documented: speed, drive, immediate presence. 2 completely different design briefs. One dog built for judgment, one built for deterrence. The physical numbers are worth mentioning because people always ask, so German Shepherds run 65 to 90 pounds, Dobermans 75 to 100. Bite force is nearly identical. A 2008 study in the Journal of Anatomy measuring jaw mechanics across 20 breeds put the Shepherd around 238 pounds per square inch and the Doberman around 228. Essentially the same. The Doberman runs at 32 miles per hour, the Shepherd at around 30. 2 miles per hour faster doesn't sound like much until you think about a 90-pound animal covering ground and what 2 miles per hour means at the moment of first contact. None of those numbers actually answer the question. What answers the question is what happens before any physical contact occurs. The German Shepherd's defining quality in a protection scenario is discrimination, not aggression, discrimination. A 2016 study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science evaluated the responses of trained protection dogs across multiple breeds to both familiar and unfamiliar people, displaying neutral versus threatening body language. German Shepherds scored highest on correct threat discrimination. They responded to genuine threat signals while remaining stable around unfamiliar people who weren't posturing aggressively. They didn't just react to novelty, they read intent. That quality comes directly from the herding genetics. A dog managing a flock had to distinguish between a sheep wandering off on its own and a sheep being spooked by something in the tree line. Same movement, completely different cause, completely different correct response. The Shepherd had to get that right hundreds of times a day. That precision transferred. It's why the German Federal Bundespolizei still runs Shepherds as their primary working dog. It's why the IDF's Oketz unit, arguably the most demanding working dog program in the world, uses them for complex detection and apprehension operations. The discrimination is the point. The Doberman doesn't operate the same way. A Doberman's response to an unfamiliar person in its space is faster and less conditional. It doesn't wait for threat posture. It closes the distance and puts the burden of proof entirely on whoever walked in. That speed of response is exactly what makes it so effective at deterrence. Most people confronted by a Doberman already moving toward them don't stay long enough to discover what would have happened next. They just leave. Marcus Webb in Tempe described his shepherd standing at the end of the hallway watching. The Doberman was at the door before the shepherd got up. Working line versus show line is a conversation that applies to both breeds, and it changes the answer considerably. The American show-line German Shepherd has drifted significantly from working temperament over the past 50 years. The dramatically sloped back, a conformation change selected for in the show ring, is associated with higher rates of hip dysplasia and degenerative myelopathy. The Orthopedic Foundation for Animals rates around 19% of German Shepherds as dysplastic. A dog managing chronic joint pain is a dog with a compromised ability to perform the physical demands of real protection work. The Schutzhund community in Germany, which has been running structured protection trials since 1901, maintains working bloodlines separately from show lines for exactly this reason. The Doberman has its own version of this problem. American Doberman popularity exploded in the 1970s after a handful of high-profile film appearances made the breed a status symbol, and the gene pool got diluted by demand that had nothing to do with working temperament. The KNP felines, Dutch police working Dobermans bred through the Koninklijke Nederlandse Politiehondvereniging program, preserved the nerve and drive that American show breeding spent 2 decades eroding. A KNP Doberman and an American show-line Doberman are having 2 genuinely different conversations about what the breed is capable of. The honest version of this: if you're buying an American show-line Doberman specifically for protection and paying $800 from a backyard breeder in Ohio, you're buying a deterrent. The look, the bark, the presence. That might be entirely sufficient for what most households actually need. Just don't confuse it with a working dog. There's a third layer here that Marcus Webb's post touched on and that most comparison videos skip: pain tolerance and re-engagement. The willingness to keep working after getting hit is not the same in both breeds. Schutzhund trainers who work with both consistently report the German Shepherd re-engages faster after taking a significant physical correction during trial work. Not because the Doberman is soft, but because the Shepherd's nerve, its stress tolerance, was a selection criterion for 125 years of working trials. The KNPV Doberman lines address this in the European working dogs. American show lines don't. The scenario most people have in mind when they ask this question is someone in their house at night who shouldn't be there. For that scenario, the German Shepherd from working lines gives you a reliable, discriminating animal that reads the situation accurately and responds proportionately. It's the dog that makes the right call. The Doberman from working lines gets there first, creates immediate psychological pressure, and doesn't give the intruder time to collect themselves before making a decision. One dog is solving a threat through judgment. The other is solving it by making the threat irrelevant before judgment is necessary. Marcus Webb eventually posted a follow-up 6 months after the original. He said he'd thought about it more and landed here. The Shepherd was the better dog by nearly every practical measure. Smarter, easier to manage around his kids, more predictable in ambiguous situations. In a real emergency, he trusted the Shepherd's decision-making more, but he also said the Doberman was the dog he thought about when the lights went off. Both of those things are true, and the fact that they're both true is the whole answer.